You should all read to your kids. And I think your kids should learn a love of reading, because there was something that I learned early on as a kid. Once I learned how to read, I was never bored. And I think our kids don't know how to be bored because they always have this. And so I think we need to bring back that love of reading.
Right.
And if we can focus enough to read a book, that is going to help us in all sorts of our life, because we will be able to focus on whatever it is life brings to us. And this is just taking away our focus in general. And we need to bring focus and just like calmness back to our world again.
Hey, everybody. Another episode of the Buffalo Community Podcast. Looking forward to this one. We got a second-time guest, Rusty Kath, and his beautiful wife, Angie Kath.
Easy.
And we are going to
That's why you're here.
dive into a topic that I think, I don't know, top of mind is probably the wrong word, but a topic that affects really all of us to some degree or another. And really getting into smartphone devices with our youth, which I think is a big problem for adults even. But let's go down that road of, you're a teacher at Montrose Elementary, have been for a few years.
Just a few.
Yeah. You have a Facebook group, Love and Learning. Let's talk about Love and Learning and kind of the purpose of Love and Learning, and then we'll see where that takes us. Okay.
So I have taught kindergarten for like the past 12 years. Before that, I taught third and second graders. What my friend and teacher coworker, Cassie Snook, and I have learned is that parenting is like really, really hard. She's not a parent, but she works with parents, obviously. And we are the first set of parents that are going through this period of life with devices. And I think it puts an even harder, it's a harder thing to navigate, because we're not just raising kids, but we're raising kids in a generation that nobody has ever, we haven't done this before. So we put together this website to just kind of help parents learn about the effects of technology and what we can do, and how to like just kind of build that play-based childhood, more so than a screen-based childhood.
Awesome. So then you have this group where you've gained several followers, you're sharing information, kind of hints, tips, tricks, and Love and Learning is the name of it. So if you have interest in participating in this group, sharing information, sharing experiences, it's a great resource. So I know you've put a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of thought. You're passionate about this topic. You brought a couple books with.
I did.
And a couple notebooks and a pen. Very prepared. What are devices? What impacts are you seeing as a teacher compared maybe 10, 15 years ago to now? Okay. So I started, I guess, first of all, I read this is The Anxious Generation. And if you haven't read it, everyone needs to read it. I read this about a year and a half ago. And I have just thought, like, every hunch that I've had as a parent and a teacher has now like research to back up the icky things that I've just felt. So I started teaching in 2004. Around 2013, things just started to feel weird. Like, kids were just so much more inattentive. I could read a book and they would listen before that. And now it's kind of like we play whack-a-mole with like, shh, be quiet, get your hands keep your hands to yourself. And there's just so much more distraction happening in our classrooms. And I didn't really know what it was. At that same time, we became parents. And I was thinking, like, maybe it's just me becoming a mom and having to deal with kids like 24/7. But I really felt that the classroom was different, and other teachers started talking about it and thinking, like, yeah, it's just a little bit different. And then this came out and said that we are basically rewiring the kids' the brains.
Whereas they used to grow up and play and have like real toys and real conversations. Now they are like sitting on a screen and they're not learning the things that they need to learn by watching. Kids need to do. Kids need to interact. They need social interaction with kids their age, with older kids and adults. And this has, the screen has taken away that experience for kids. So basically, this book then was like, the research is here to show what teachers have been feeling for a long time.
So I know the feeling, and again, I think we're going to get kind of into the weeds and just have an open conversation about this. I know I feel guilty anytime the kids spend online. I have opinions on what it's doing, being in a mentorship position, being in a coaching position, kind of seeing inside the schools as well. And then just kind of meeting plenty of people. And just, I'm a student of just learning the psychology of people. The ease of access and anything that it goes into as far as the guilt that a parent I know is feeling, if they're anything like the rest of us, when their kid sits there, I think most of us are guilty of it. And if
sure is easy.
Yeah. I mean, just wait, and if it's not the guilty of that, then it's the guilty of, well, so-and-so has a phone, when they're in 5th, 6th, 7th, or sometimes even lower grades than that. Is that, what advice can we even tell people? You're not alone, or
yeah, I think,
what can they do?
I think something we have to think about right now is we didn't know then what we know now. Mm-hmm. And so I've even thought of this as a teacher, like we brought in all this technology to try to like engage students and like just redesign education because this was the next best thing. And I don't think it was.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like it was my fault that we did all these things because at the time that was the thing that we thought was going to be the best. So I think we have to, like, as much as we can, put away the guilt and now take the responsibility of being an adult that knows this information, and we can do better for our kids moving forward. Mm-hmm. Because now we really know. It's not just like this research talks a lot about like the teen mental health, but it's not just teens. Like you said, Mark, it's all of us. Mm-hmm. The little kids are especially coming into kindergarten, like with we have so many more speech delays. They don't really even know how to share and take turns anymore because the play that they used to have coming in, it just isn't there anymore. So I would say number one is we have to stop feeling like it's our fault. We didn't know, but now we actually need to do something about it.
Sure. And
if you start to look out there, there are some great resources to help you with that.
I think they're mowing the lawn outside. Everybody else can hear what I'm hearing too.
I know they're mowing the lawn outside.
Well, you know what? You said we were going to get into the weeds. Here we are, Pally. Yeah. We're right there, and now we're cutting them on down.
Yeah. Call me Nostradamus. Yeah. All right. So we know better now.
Yep.
We can do better.
Yep.
It's our responsibility to be better.
Exactly.
Some of the dangers, I mean, that are sitting there. What's that one tip? I mean, for the people that are maybe naive, that are thinking, well, it's not that bad. They're just playing kids games. They're just doing this, kind of
educational games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, let's help educate those people that I believe are being just a bit naive on how damaging that.
Okay.
This is.
Yep. So I think it comes down to, I'm not a neurologist, but it comes down to dopamine. Mm-hmm. Those instant gratification effects that they get from watching the short videos, from playing the video games, that is giving them these spikes in dopamine. And then they don't know how to navigate life without that all the time. The brain is like just making like this circuitry of like, I need that, I want that, I have to have that. And every one of those like positive messengers that are saying this is good now, they're not helping us in the future. Like, mm-hmm. I mean, it goes back to like feeding your kid Cheetos or broccoli. The kid is always going to choose the Cheetos because that's the positive message that they get. They're not going to think in the long run, I need to like have vegetables. So we have to take it just little bits at a time and thinking like, what do we want for the long-term goal of parenting? And they need to learn resilience, and they need to learn just that delayed gratification of I can do hard things, I can work through hard problems. And when they get so used of that constant like need for I need to seek this out, and I need to click on the next thing. Life is just going to be so much more hard. We see that with just learning to read. Like they have to like slow down to learn how to read in kindergarten. They have to learn their letters, their sounds. They have to blend and it's hard. And if they've never done something that takes effort, it just makes everything in life worse. So that's the big thing with like the little kids, is that they're not learning how to pay attention and focus on anything that's hard. The older kids they're not developing socially. They're getting really depressed and anxious, and that is like truly scary. Every Minnesota teacher now has to have we have to have like professional education and mental health and suicide awareness. That is because the suicide rates for teens have gone up, I think, like 60% in the last few years since this has become a thing. And a lot of it is correlated to screen time. So like it's a legit serious problem. It's scary. The brain operates a lot also like drug addiction. When you watch like what lights up in your brain when you're on drugs versus when you're on a screen, it's the same thing. We wouldn't give our kids cigarettes. We really shouldn't give them as much screen time as we are allowing.
Guilty.
You give your kids cigarettes?
Yeah.
Marcus.
I thought we knew you better than that.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, if I might pop on that, the other thing that we're seeing also, you had mentioned drugs, but I think of walking through a casino and you see that person who is just, think of walking through a casino and you see that person who's just sitting there tapping. It is the exact same thing as you see, and we're all guilty of it. But the thing is, we've also developed, when you're talking about kids who are preteen, young teenagers, haven't necessarily had a full brain development to be able to handle that more efficiently and properly.
They legit designed those apps after Las Vegas casinos. Like when you look at the psychology of like what makes a person gamble more and stay there, that is what the designers of the social media apps used to do that.
Yeah.
These are really, really smart people that designed these things to get us hooked and to stay on the device as long as possible. And now we're telling kids like to control it.
Right.
Like that, I think, is the big reason why I really like this new book. Johann Hari, Stolen Focus. This Anxious Generation with Jonathan Haidt is more of like the kids' mental health teen. This one goes into like why we all can't focus. And these tech companies are really playing into our ability to control our own wants and needs.
Sure.
And like they have these really smart people are developing these apps, and then they also aren't giving them to their own kids or using them for themselves either.
That is, yep.
It's like Mark Zuckerberg covering the camera on his own computers.
Yeah. And like all these people in Silicon Valley, they don't send their kids to any schools that have technology in the classrooms, and they don't let their kids use the social media platforms. It's that bad.
The one of the observations that I've made, and you hit on the head, is that dopamine hit, and then almost really just begging for a yearning or needing that validation from somebody else. When at the end of the day, you'd be so amazed on how many times people aren't thinking about you, but you feel that validation when somebody says, "Hey, I like that. Good job."
I like as a person who is not on social media very often, I have this Love and Learning page, and I posted something yesterday. I was refreshing that thing so many more times than I ever would, just to see, oh, did anyone read it? Oh, did anyone comment? Did anyone like Nobody ever does. But you should. Yeah. But I also, Leo actually said an interesting thing when I was on it yesterday.
Leo being our 8-year-old boy.
Yes. He said, "Mom, you like listen to a lot of these podcasts and you read a lot of this stuff, don't you think it's kind of funny that in order to like learn about screen time and why it's bad for us, you have to use a screen?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just why it's so hard for all of us, because every part of our life is on a screen.
Yeah.
And so we have to kind of learn how to like take ownership ourselves. And there are like things like your lock boxes that you can like put your phone away. Like there are things that'll like slow like your apps down, because when they're learning like once, if you have to like wait for a page to load, you're more likely to just leave it. Yeah.
Oh, I would love that.
So I think like there's starting to be more and more things out there, but we just have to be aware of, number one, it's a problem for ourselves as adults. And more importantly, we have to do something to help our kids in the meantime. But we have to take action. Like we can't just like, oh yeah, it's a problem. But
Right. Well, and it's because it's hard and it's scary. Like, I know how much time I waste on social media, and the thought of like knowing what the right thing to do is different. You know, like I know how to eat, right? I know how to exercise. I know how to do all these things, right?
Yeah.
And so like, why am I on Facebook? Why? Like, I know that when I always say if somebody could show you how much time how many years of your life you spent, you're at the end of your life, and they say, hey, did you know that you gave 8 years of life to mindless scrolling?
Yeah.
Like that's not living life.
right.
That's chasing dopamine. That's, doing these things, and screens are just one example, and a pretty big example. But, I forget the point I was going to make when I started talking.
I think it's a huge thing because there is a positivity to it. We saw, if you were a baseball fan, people were watching the trade deadline. And I have friends who are living their best life watching every single thing happen in real time. And they were making social connections and doing it. There is a fun part of that too. Social media's you can find amazing podcasts about the Buffalo community and all sorts of other things too. There's a ton of positive, but you have to realize that these are a tool. You got to be able to utilize them as a tool as best as you possibly can. Is that easy? No, but that's what we're trying to do. And like I go back to what I said before, we're going to be more careful. We're not seeing the effects on like Generation X or older millennials. By the time smartphones and these devices came around and social media, we were pretty well established. For the most part, we had brains had developed. When you shifted and you're looking at what kids are going through, that's a whole different thing. And I think too, like with Jonathan Haidt, he talks about like the big 4 things. People are always like, what can we do? What can we actually do about this? And he's got 4 suggestions.
Yeah, do you want to lay those out for us?
Let me just look at my smartphone. Yeah. So I think big thing, no smartphones for kids before high school. He is a huge proponent of flip phones. You want to be able to keep track of your kids. They're going to go bike in the neighborhood. Okay. Get them a flip phone. We used to have flip phones where it was one-on-one communication. With a smartphone, it's one person to lots and lots of people. Secondly, too, no social media before age 16. No social media before age 16. Remember how difficult middle school was? Junior high was? That was when we were just awkwardly walking into each other in the hallways with no way to get a hold of each other except a rotary phone after school. Now you're comparing yourself to every kid, not just in your own school, but around the world. So no smartphones before high school, no social media before age 16. And he's also a big proponent, and I am this too, and this is a more controversial thing, phone-free schools. From beginning bell to end bell. No phones. A huge thing that kids are missing out on is interaction with each other.
Right.
And if you even have it phones, and I know a lot of schools will have it so it's like just at lunchtime or just at passing time. Well, instead of making those connections with people, you're doing that. And his other big thing too is less about the screens, and it's that we need to have a more play-based childhood. Kids need to be taking risks, playing with each other rather than on a screen.
Scraping their knees.
Yes. Yeah, I love kids with scraped knees and bruises. You know what they're up playing. So no phones, no smartphones before high school, no social media before age 16, phone-free schools, and also more play-based childhood.
Yeah. And I you said this is kind of controversial when you said a phone-free school, right?
Yeah.
Why is that controversial? Like why to me, and to me, I think schools are struggling with the same thing that parents are struggling with, is that it's hard. It's really hard, especially when you've made the mistakes that I've made, that my wife and I have made with, you know, putting screens in front of kids. Like it's easy to say Pandora's out of the box. We're going to do better in these areas, or we're going to be aware, but like, you know, maybe schools are struggling with doing the hard thing just as much as parents are struggling to do the hard thing, because kids don't need phones in schools. That should not be controversial to me, unless I'm missing something, unless there's a reason.
I think the controversial part is the fact that there's oftentimes parents use it as a crutch. And it's no longer a partnership between teachers and parents, where it used to be, hey, our best thing is to educate this child. Now it's like, why aren't you doing this for my kid? It's almost an attack against each other. Then, it's just been an observation. I'm not a teacher, but I've heard plenty of stories of that. And that's my hot take on it, is that it's almost like in competition against each other, when it really needs to be, hey, we need to think about what's best for the kid. Where I remember as a kid growing up, if you got a bad grade in parent-teacher conferences, well, I never did. I got really good grades. But, there's always a kid, Joe, in our class that was terrible.
Oh, worst.
But it was, hey, we need to talk about, young so-and-so's grades here. It wasn't like, well, why are you attacking? It wasn't, why are you attacking my kid? It's now, why are you singling out my kid right now? Why are you doing this? It's where I think that's the controversial part of, like, hey, we feel like this is pretty bad for kids to be having these phones. Well, what if they need to get a hold of us?
And I think that's a big point with too. There's a lot of parents who want to be able to get in touch with their kids. We are living in an era. Mark, you and I were in high school when Columbine happened. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it was the idea of a school shooting was a foreign idea prior to that, and now, unfortunately, it is, it's not an incredibly common thing if you look at statistically through all the schools in the world. However, it's common enough that a lot of parents want to be able to have that communication with their kids. And they just want to have communication with their kids on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. I do some events for the Minnesota Wild where we'll do school visits, go to elementary schools with Player, and we do a 30-minute presentation. And so I talk to principals a lot. And I was amazed with one principal talking about the same conversation, had a kid who had a smartwatch, and really all it could do was send an emoji. And that kid, who was in like 3rd or 2nd grade, was getting a ping from mom every 5 minutes. How are you doing now? How are you doing now? Yeah. Emoji. How are you doing now? How are you doing now? And we can't develop like that.
Yeah. And then what if the kid hits the sad face after the 5th ask? What are you going to do, mom?
Yeah. And think about what it actually then does to the mom. Like, it probably totally takes her away from whatever she was doing, because now she just feels bad, and nothing good comes of that. Another, back to the school shootings. I was listening to something recently that if there was a school shooting and the kids had their phones and they start texting like their parents, now their parents are coming to this scene where we want emergency vehicles only. And so, like, it just disrupts the whole, like, order of emergency people coming to help. And if they're calling their mom to, like, hear their voice or whatever, now we have people who are, like, in a lockdown setting needing to be calm, hysterically calling their parents on their phone because they can and it's there. And so, like, the whole idea of, well, I want them to be in contact with me if there's a school shooting. We don't really want that. Like, yes, obviously the emotional part of us as a parent, we're like, oh,
100%. I'd want that call.
Yeah. But at the same time, like, we always have to look at the greater picture. And the greater picture is, it is going to do more harm than good having school phones in our schools.
Isn't it kind of messed up that this is even our conversation today?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, holy crap. Like, I'm glad this isn't like at 8:00 at night, because I'm not sleeping tonight. That's for sure. and that's really, just kind of a sick world that we live in. But I hope as we kind of go around is like, all right, there is some positivity out there. Because I know I've said before, you said it's a tool. Like, I retire. I want to chuck my phone in the lake. Not really, just theoretically. And then just nothing. Flip phone, maybe a rotary phone if they're still, or a regular dial-up phone. Because I don't want that. If I didn't have to do it for my work, I wouldn't do it.
Can I ask this as far as parents too? Because this is what we're going through right now. We got an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old. So now we're going to have a middle schooler and one in elementary school. Angie teaches elementary school. And so there's going to be, and there's times where I got to be gone for work. There's a time that we'll have a kid home alone. So then we're trying to navigate this. Do we get a home phone? Because we still want to be able to, hey, Mom, Dad, I made it home safely. Do we get a flip phone? Something along those lines. Do we get, hey, we've got these old extra iPhones laying around. Do we utilize one of those? Just have it as a home phone? But I don't know. What have you guys navigated anything on that?
We just recently, probably in the last year, got a Bark phone.
What's that?
We can track everything that's happening on it. I mean, it's a regular Android. It looks like everybody else's phone, but it also tracks what they do, even their just conversation, not in a creepy way, but it's like, hey, they're saying some slang here that might be, harmful, of self-harm, or we see their Roblox, communication with each other. And like sometimes just because they're very poor spellers. I'm like, well, that's great. Well, yeah. let's not ding you for that, but it keeps a track of them.
So what can they do on it? Can they text?
They can text
and through call
through approved numbers. That and everything can get cycled through the parents' phones. So both Jenny and I's phone, they can't text a number. They couldn't text you guys without it being approved of who is this, what is it, and everything like that. So it's restrictive, but I don't think they feel like it's been restricted. Now we let them play games with their friends on it.
So you can download apps?
Yes. Okay. Only through approval through us. You can set screen limitations, you can set time limitations, and it also alerts us saying, hey, you have a review for, the phone. Here's what it is. Review them, and it'll kind of categorize it. And it actually gives you some tips as well, just saying, here's what some people would have done in this, how to talk to your kid about, and some of them are like self-harm. If it says cut, if you type the word cut, they weren't talking. You get to see the whole conversation about it, but here, you should talk about this. Then
Sawyer,
you get to
cut the cheese.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah,
alert,
it's like,
alert.
And so it's stuff like that. And then it does give you some suggestions on what to do, how to open a conversation. So it's through a Bark phone. I feel it's very reasonable. I mean, adding another line, but it's without saying, hand your phone over. No, we still do. We don't let it goes on the countertop every night. They don't get to take it to their rooms. They don't do anything. And there's one of them. It's like, all right, if the boys are at wrestling, it's going with them, because call us if you get done early, or we're gonna be there. So it's not Emma's phone or Charlie's phone. It is the phone.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we've done. And it's actually nice now that we're kind of getting busier, where we can actually text them, saying, hey, running back, hey, will you check to see if we have milk before I head home? Kind of just the normal communication stuff, versus.
To your point, technology is amazing.
Yeah.
It does really wonderful things.
Completely.
And like, it's hard to reel it in. Mm-hmm. For us, we did the Gizmo watches, and the kids didn't really wear them very much.
And what was the Gizmo watch? Was it kind of just a texting thing?
It's just like a watch like this that you can pre-approve up to 10 numbers. They can call, but there might have been a couple cheesy little games on it or something, but like it was wear the watch, call. I don't even know if it could text. I don't remember. It was a while ago. And then I don't remember. I mean, Ansley got the first cell phone, and this kind of ties in with what you said earlier on of like, I think the hardest part is, I don't remember if it was 4 years ago or 5, middle school, probably at some point. We said no. And then, but you want to make your kid happy, right? My kid you love to see your kids happy. Mm-hmm. Think how excited they're going to be when they get their cell phone. And so you start justifying things, and you start going, well, it would be nice if they could, text us when they get home, or we could reach them, and it'll make them so happy, right? Like, all these things, but your gut tells you, when we handed her that phone and everything that comes with it, yep, the traps and the danger and the addiction and to say that I handed that phone over in pure joy and excitement for her, I didn't feel good about it deep down. There was a part of me that was excited for her.
Yep.
Cool. Right? But like, there's an icky feeling that came with it that that's just being honest, of just like, I don't feel great about this, but I'm also kind of excited about this. But, you know, so I think that was our plan. And, you know, made a lot of wrong choices. Still have wonderful kids. My kids are great.
Yes.
Like, I think they're
our kids.
Yeah. I think they're going to be wonderful adults. Right. But you definitely see the anxiety, some of the depression, the trap, the time suck, the, you know, melting into the couch type days where it's just like, okay, like, you know, I've been thinking lately of like just making Sundays a screen-free day.
I like that.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's just like, Sundays are the day before we go to school, you know, the day, like this is family day. This is screen-free day. I'm scared to do that. Because I have to do that too.
You do.
And then you wouldn't get all those stupid fantasy football texts that we get every Sunday.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, that's not like a better reason to get rid of it. The screen time on Sundays. You don't have to deal with those.
Like, I mean,
Somebody lost last year.
I think deep down, and maybe that I say this just because it's how I personally feel, and I assume everybody feels the same way. I think deep down, like, we all know what we have to do. If I could boil it down to one word of like, why don't we just do it? To me, that word is fear.
Yep.
It's scary to make huge life changes, losing weight, you know, whatever it is. I think people are scared to make their kids upset, scared for their own withdrawal from the drug of screens, and fear of how difficult it's going to be. Could be wrong. No research, no data, just.
I do think that people are all afraid, and any big, like you said, like if you need to like exercise to lose weight or something, like the end goal is always really hard to see. But people who have like set limits or made like even just small changes, like they feel so good. I've heard even after like 1 or 3 weeks, depending on how big of a deal it was for their family. So I think something like just a 1 day of week, or just making some small change. Like if you think of like your family and what's really bothering you about the social media, I feel like just thinking about one small change that we could all make makes the whole thing a lot easier to manage. So like some people say like no phones at dinner. Like we're going to block off from 5 to 7 o'clock or whatever every night. We put our phones away for just that period of time. Something like that might be more easily managed by everybody in the family versus like maybe a whole day. I also just think when we think about making things better, like obviously there are wonderful things on the screen, but thinking about so for kids in general, watching a small screen is worse than watching a big screen. So TV is not all bad. There are some really awesome shows on TV. Our kids watched PBS Kids and still do because they love it and they're learning things. They know more about animals than I will ever know because they watched Wildcrats. Watching
I love Wildcrats.
an educational show on a TV with your sibling, I don't think that's bad if you're going to watch like a show or two. But when you put a small screen in front of a small human, and it's that video that takes like 12 seconds, and then the next one rolls in, and there's another 12 seconds, and like
it's called TikTok.
Yeah, that's what's really not good. And so I think we have to think about like what type of screen are we going to allow in our homes? When are we going to allow that kind of screen time to happen? I think not having phones in bedrooms is huge, especially as they get older. Like that's just a scary thing that can happen. So like, nope, you can have your phone, but it's never going to be in your bedroom. I think there are small things that we can do. Thinking of these things as tools and not just toys and strictly entertainment. Leo's learning how to play guitar using an app on your iPad. What is it?
Guitar tabs or something like that. But then he'll pop on YouTube or something like that. Yeah, just like that. Well, no, he's not actually playing the phone. It's an actual guitar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. It's a real guitar, not a guitar or anything, but it's a real guitar. And then he learns, but then he'll, without me knowing, then he's looking at like, oh, I want to learn how to play something by the Beatles, which is awesome that he wants to play something by the Beatles. And like, so he's trying to learn how to play Here Comes the Sun from some sort of like YouTube video. And I'm like, okay, that's cool that you're using that as a tool, but I don't want you going on that app yet either. But you're right. It can be a great tool.
Yeah.
I was going to kind of show you on an example. What I leaned over, it says, Emma's phone was powered on. Like, so I could tell if they're on, they're off, anything like that. But this is, now this says chat with unknown on the app Roblox. And it might fall under violence or sexual content. So I'm going to show it to you. So that's what's going to come through. And that was SAW. Or that was SA, and SA sexually abused, that's what they're like. Oh, is something happening, like that? But it's sometimes it's chat like that. We haven't seen anything that was, terrible. Not like this one is drug related content. They're trying to spell nice, but it's like nicotine, So I mean, this is an example. I mean, and it maybe goes a little bit too, but I'd rather know, about stuff like this. So, but it's, that's what we see. And there's been some times of just like, we need to come and talk about this because this is concerning on the chat. You also have to be respectful to other people's feelings. And it's maybe not a story that I'm going to tell here, but I might tell you after we push. But, it's that type of stuff to kind of keep track of that. And one thing that we did, we went out with friends one time. And I was like, we had stayed at a hotel, everything. And I said, you know what? I'm going to leave my phone in the hotel room. Oh boy, it was such a fantastic evening of you're not feeling for your phone, even if it's just there in your pocket. Is it just, I'm distracted now. I'm not doing anything here. It was a very refreshing 3 hours. And you know what happened in those 3 hours in my phone? Those notifications are there and
didn't matter.
Nothing happened. It was fine.
We all have it. I know I do. We went on vacation last year, and it was the first, and I was really, really busy texting and emailing. I was trying to finalize some stuff for the Sandlot Baseball League we were helping run. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm going to be gone. You guys are going to have to take care of the rest of it. And for the first even day or two on vacation, I'm like, I don't have access to any internet or any communication. And it was an uncomfortable feeling. And I'm sitting here preaching to not have this. Right. And it was there then by day 3. And the week ends, and I'm like, I don't want to turn my notifications back on. I don't want to hear from another human. This is a wonderful thing. And obviously, it's what keeps coming up. It's FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. And even when we don't have it, that we find this too. Jonathan Haidt gets in this a little bit in The Anxious Generation, that even when we're not on the app, even when we're not actually looking at it, even if our phone is not in us, even if it's in a different room, our mind is there. We're perpetually absent. And so again, I come back to like, if we're struggling with it, kids are going to be struggling with it a whole lot more. I think the other big thing too for us, as far as like a big take home message is that it's tough. We're dealing with these things. What can we do? And I think there's a lot of like-minded people of understanding. There's not anybody who said, oh man, I really wish I would have given my kid a smartphone sooner. Really wish I would have gotten my kid on social media sooner. We were at, a guest of yours, Matt Lubin, principal at the middle school, was discussing it at an open house they had this last spring, and he talked about cell phones and usage in the school. And he made the statement like, hey, kids at this age in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade do not need smartphones. And a huge round of applause broke out among the crowd. And I think we forget that a lot of people are thinking the same way. So when you can actually, the next thing for us is being able to get a list together of other parents of saying, we're going to do these 4 things. We're not going to allow our kids to have a smartphone before high school or social media before age 16. And if you can get enough people kind of teamed up with you, now your kids are going to have a group of friends and not be perpetually stuck with that FOMO.
Yep.
You don't want your kid to be the only one.
Right.
And I think you alluded to that earlier. Like, you want to make them happy. And if all of their friends are on these devices, it's going to be a lot easier to give in. But if you can find that base of other families that think like you do, and they're like, nope, we're going to delay it.
it makes it a lot easier. I think we also have to make sure we're giving them the childhood experiences, like we mentioned play before, but as they get older, like they're not going to sit and play Legos forever. Like they are going to need to get out with friends and to socialize, and we're going to have to make those things happen. Like if we're going to take screen time away, we have to replace it with something that's also fun, because they think this is fun and they want to be with friends and
pulling weeds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Raking weeds.
Staining the deck.
Yeah.
They love those things.
Yep. Mowing the lawn's not bad. My boys just started. They're 11 now.
Do they love it?
They love mowing the lawn. They absolutely love it. And if there's any hope for the generation, I was driving downtown Buffalo. I believe this is off of like Willow Creek Lane. There was a homemade bike jump. And I thought, there is still hope for these kids. It was a really crappy looking, dangerous jump. Yeah. But it was a homemade bike jump, and this Huffy's going off of it, and these kids are just having a blast.
It's a huge thing that Jonathan Haidt gets into in the anxious generation, things that we don't think about. But as mammals, we are constantly, trying to do these things. You see, tiger cubs at the zoo playing around with each other. Kids take chances. They might get a little bit hurt, but then they take a little bit bigger chance. And then they take a little bit bigger chance. And then they take a little bit bigger chance. As parents, a lot of times you want to stop that. But they're learning from that junky bike jump they made, what works, what doesn't work. And there's so much learning happening that we had no idea that these things are being learned at those times. Those are incredibly important. And the fact that more of those kids aren't getting that experience and are instead getting a lot more experience phone-based is making kindergarten teachers' lives pretty miserable.
Yeah.
Well, I think that I hope everybody understands that
everybody should feel very guilty if their kid has ever looked at, if your kid has ever looked at a phone or an iPad. You should feel terrible. You're so bad at what? No. Yeah. I think I'm sorry to jump in front of you.
No, that's okay.
It's something we discuss a lot too. Like we can't. There is no blame around here, but there's an understanding of what the issues are and how we can all do better.
And knowing what we know. Yeah. No, I appreciate it because you said it better than I could. So, we could go on and on, and I guess I wanted with your notes, and is there anything we're missing or something that you really wanted to get into today that maybe we haven't touched on?
I think you should all read to your kids. And I think your kids should learn a love of reading, because there was something that I learned early on as a kid. Once I learned how to read, I was never bored. And I think our kids don't know how to be bored because they always have this. And so I think we need to bring back that love of reading.
Right.
And if we can focus enough to read a book, that is going to help us in all sorts of our life, because we will be able to focus on whatever it is life brings to us. And this is just taking away our focus in general. And we need to bring focus and just like calmness back to our world again.
And when I was a kid, I was only bored when I was reading.
There we go. Yeah. Maybe you didn't have the right book.
Right. Maybe. Yeah. So awesome. Well,
I can't thank you enough for the time. But I really want you to smash that like button, because Mark and I need the validation here of being watched. If you made it this far, thank you very much. But for the Buffalo Community Podcast, I'm Tyler Reese.
I'm Mark Benzer.
Rusty Kath.
Angie Kath.
Thanks for listening to the Buffalo Community Podcast, produced by Edlin Media. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube, as well as anywhere you listen to podcasts.